in high school, I had always had a boyfriend, and I would not move on, but I would always have an interest in someone else. And my way of thinking, the way that's been taught to me, was break up with this person I really care about so that I can go on a new adventure and find out if there's an interest here. And there were so many times I separated from different people that I still really cared about, to go on a new adventure, and it just didn't feel right. And it was heartbreaking a lot of the times.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 290. We are Finn and Emma, and today we talk with Anne and Charles. This conversation is powerful. They come from very different backgrounds, but we weave together their backgrounds, their current relationship. They weave together kink dynamics, polyamory, folding that in with the kink, and discussing partner loss.
Yeah, this is an amazing conversation. It's almost sort of three parts to it, but they flow beautifully together. So a couple of things up front that we wanted to mention. Part of their dynamic is what they refer to and what is referred to as the DDLG and CGL community. And they're going to talk more about this, but just for anybody who's not familiar with those acronyms, that is Daddy Dom Little Girl and Caregiver Little. And so they're going to talk more about what those mean to them and how they live that out in their day-to-day lives and how they weave it into their relationship. I think the other part is polyamory is a big part of this. It's not just kink and it's not just polyamory. They've found a way to weave those together in a really beautiful way, and they talk about that. And then the last part that, Emma, you said was around the loss of a partner. And this is sort of the last third of our conversation. And we wanted to give a sort of a trigger warning up front here. That part of the conversation is sort of confined to the second or to the last third. And so if this is something that maybe you're also dealing with and you're not ready to confront that, it doesn't come up for about the first 40 minutes, around the 38-minute mark of the interview itself. So I don't know how long this intro got, but roughly 38 minutes into the conversation, there's a point at which it's very clear I ask if it's a good time to transition into that conversation. And so that would be a great time if you're not ready to listen to something that is pretty hard stuff to face. That would be a great time for you to tune out. And we just wanted to make sure that was known up front. There's nothing really graphic or anything that happens, but it is some very intense emotional conversations that we're actually really, really grateful to Anne and Charles for being able to come on and talk about it at all. It's absolutely beautiful and incredible. Yes.
Anne actually reached out to us wanting very much to share this part of her story, all of it. But this was incredibly important to her because she found there's not very many resources, if any, out there talking about losing a partner in a polyamorous dynamic and losing a partner to death, not a relationship breakup. So, we just thank both Anne and Charles for this beautiful, vulnerable, deep conversation, and we're looking forward to sharing it with all of you.
Yeah. And so with that, we're going to move into the interview for anybody who is a premium subscriber. For the rest of you, we have a couple of short announcements here, and then we'll jump right in.
If you're not familiar with a premium subscription, you can sign up on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. On the homepage, just scroll down. It's a way to pay as little as $2 a year to skip these announcements up front and support the podcast. But don't worry, you still get important dates in the outro.
Yes, absolutely. First announcement beyond the one that you just did, so we'll call it the second announcement. I think that's how the numbering system goes.
Yeah.
Our virtual community, this is a space that is now occupied by almost 300 members from around the world. And we are so grateful to each and every one of you all. Thank you very much. You all show up every day to support one another, love one another. You share funny photos. You share pictures of your dogs and your breakups and your hikes and your sexiness.
All of it.
It's all of it in one. with amazing humans. And so if you're looking for community, if you're looking for your people, we have it on good authority that we think you'll probably find them in there. And we would love for you to join us. It's $5 a month. You get all of the things we just talked about. Plus, we have monthly men's groups call. We have a women's group call. We have a virtual Q&A that is for everybody. And we're working on adding new groups all the time. So please check it out. Our website, again, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab, and you will find out everything you could ever need to know right there.
Yes. While you're on our website, you can go under resources and click on the links for stdcheck.com. It's our favorite way to get tested for STIs. Using the links on that page does support the podcast. Thank you very much.
It also saves you $10.
Exactly.
You're welcome very much.
It saves you $10, making a 10-panel test only $129. stdcheck.com is discreet and simple. It's quick. So just a great way to get tested and know your STI status.
One fun fact, the only thing faster than stdcheck.com is how fast Emma says stdcheck.com.
That's true. I tend to say it quickly.
Kind of.
stdcheck.com.
There you go. And just double that time, you could have had your 10-panel test for $129. Again, links are in the podcast player or in our show notes on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. You click on the podcast tab, and just a little bit to the left of that, there's a contact us tab.
Yep.
And that's how you could send us an email or a voicemail to let us know how much you love us or how amazing you are, or that maybe you want to come on the show to share your story or share a similar story, or maybe
you have some feedback for us?
That too.
Yes.
So basically say hello, and we will say hello back.
And with that, let's go and talk with Anne and Charles. Well, welcome to the podcast, Anne and Charles. We're excited to talk to you today on this, Wednesday night. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for definitely arranging the schedule so we could be here.
Thank you very much.
No, of course. We're super excited. So maybe let's just jump right in. Who are Anne and Charles? Let's start with intros.
So I'll start because he's feeling shy. I am Anne. I am 32 years old. We live in Florida, over in the Tampa Bay area. I have been polyamorous. I've been polyamorous my entire life, but I only was self-aware of what that was in 2014. We met in 2016. But there's a whole story with that we'll dive into a little bit later. But we're also a part of the DDLG CGL community, which is kind of related back into BDSM, which is daddy, dom, and little girl. Okay. So I refer to Charles as daddy most of the time. So you'll hear me say daddy a lot. And that does mean this wonderful man next to me.
Got it. Perfect.
It's your turn.
My name's Charles. I've been in the community for about 5-6 years, give or take. It was a very slow progress of being a swinger, then moving from swinger into polyamory, and then finding this one next to me. And she kind of opened up my world also to the whole BDSM world.
I sat here and I counted those years. I was like, wait a minute, that means me.
Yeah. And then once that opened up my world, or once she opened up my world to that, it just blew my mind and I was hooked. So it's definitely been an interesting ride, to say the least. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, we're super excited to hear about it. And maybe it makes sense then to go back. It sounds like non-monogamy came into your world sort of first, and you were the catalyst for the both of you. Where did it come into your life for the first time, or how?
So in 2014, I was young, freshly 14. Yes, I am right. In 2014, I was young and freshly married at the time. I had I'd been in the community for at least 2 years prior to that. And at one of my events, I met a gentleman who became my best friend. And he became my best friend so much that we started to develop feelings. And he was polyamorous. So there was this one time in the car when I said, so, And I had already done my research, so I was just asking to start a conversation. I was like, "What is polyamory?" And of course, we then sit in the car for hours and we're just talking about what this is. And it's like my entire life had flashed before my eyes. So in high school, I had always had a boyfriend, and I would not move on, but I would always have an interest in someone else. And my way of thinking, the way that's been taught to me, was break up with this person I really care about so that I can go on a new adventure and find out if there's an interest here. And there were so many times I separated from different people that I still really cared about, to go on a new adventure, and it just didn't feel right. And it was heartbreaking a lot of the times. But that's how everything just kind of connected to me. And soon after that, we had started up our relationship. Unfortunately, my new partner at the time, my husband, we were very quickly married by the time I moved down here to Florida. And we weren't well matched. Our relationship ended really just because we were too quick into it. He was a wonderful person. It just didn't work out for us. And I wound up taking this adventure with who was my best friend for the next 7 years, and we got married. He is now my ex-partner, my ex-husband as well. Which is awkward. But that's kind of where I have wound up my life here. I hosted a bunch of events in our community. I'm a local, I hate the word leader, but a leader of our community. And I do monthly events here, where I met this one in 2016 prior to getting married to my last partner.
Me and my ex-wife actually signed your marriage certificate.
They did. They were at our wedding. And they both signed as witnesses on our marriage certificate. So,
wow, I love it. I love it. And just to clarify, and so your sort of exposure to non-monogamy came through. It sounded like through the kink community. It sounded like you were in the DDLG community prior to non-monogamy.
I actually. So DDLG also came to me in the same way.
Okay.
I've kind of been kinky before I ever knew what it was as well.
Okay.
And I've always been in the community from the legal age I'm supposed to be, and started as a submissive. Okay. I've always known that I've been on the lower spectrum of that, but this my past partner, my ex-husband of 7 years, not only did he introduce polyamory to me, but he also one day looked at me and he said, "I think you're a little." And I was so offended. I was like, "No, I'm not. That's impossible." Because to me, these were people that would walk up to me and baby talk me in restaurants when I didn't want to be baby talked, or would make me uncomfortable. And then he was like, "But you are." And so I started to dive into that and really realize that there are, as there is with kink, there are people who, are worthy of the consents, and there are people who aren't as quite mindful of boundaries and things like that. So I do fall into that little category, but I didn't really find out the extent of my little until this one.
Got it. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so up to this point, we've heard from your story, Anne. Can you bring in Charles to the story, and where the two of you met in 2016 and how that relationship has developed?
Or even what exposure Charles had to non-monogamy prior to 2016.
Yeah, his story is completely different from mine. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so my story starts out way differently. I had been married for over 10 years to my partner. And one day I had found a radio, get together lingerie party. And we're like, let's try it. Why not? Let's go have fun. So we went to this party, and someone approached my ex-wife. And during that time, we went home and discussed it. And we're like, you know what? Why not? Let's try it. So we had that person, called him up, had him come over, had a blast. It was a wonderful time. And we started talking like, we've done this once. Let's start doing this some more. And then we started finding out our local community, started reaching out to a swingers club, basically became lifetime memberships of other websites for swingers. And because when we went, we jumped head first, all in, we're going for it. And at that time, we just kept going. And that was probably for about 5 years. We're off and on, swinging, having, keeping our relationship perfectly good and normal. And then
well, relatively.
Relatively. It was normal for us anyways.
Right.
We'd have parties, we'd have people come over, we'd go over, to other events and everything like that. Then I'd gotten out of the military. So we had left that area and moved down here to Florida. And at that time, we kind of stopped and slowed down because we're in a new area. We're figuring out our lifestyle. We're trying to get jobs and everything like that. And then in the process of that, my ex-wife found somebody that she really started liking at work. And then she started asking, well, is it okay if he comes over? And we started, having fun and playing around. Then at a certain time, she's like, well, I kind of really like this guy. I'm like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about this feelings being involved, but let's see where it goes. And that was kind of the first real foot that we put into the polyamory world. I didn't even know what it was at that point in time, other than my wife had feelings for this other guy. So we're trying to work it out, and things were going well until I had met this beautiful woman over here.
Oh, sweeten me up, why don't you?
Basically, when she started coming along, my wife actually introduced us together.
No, I'm gonna take over for this one.
Okay, you can take over.
So, it was shortly after I had married my former husband. They were around back in 2016. We met them at one of my events, and they disappeared for a little bit, but they popped back up in 2018, where we started getting close again. In 2019, they attended our wedding, where we told you that, they signed our marriage license.
Yeah.
And after my wedding, I was invited with his wife and one of our good friends out to Gasparilla, a piratey festival that we hold down here. I went there, not quite knowing where I was going, but okay, yeah, let's go. Let's have some fun with this. Everyone got very drunk, and I'm not a big drinker, so I was more of the sober one for the night. When I help his wife to go to get to the bathrooms, and while we're waiting in line for the bathroom, she starts to talk about her boyfriend, in which I knew nothing about. I was like, "You have a boyfriend?" And she said, "Yeah, Charles knows." She defended it quick. I was like, "Oh, okay. I didn't know you were open." And she replies, "Oh yeah, we're open, drunkenly. We're open. And Charles wouldn't mind if I brought either you or her home." And I sat there and I gave it a good long thought, and I went, Charles. I mean, I guess. And we were too drunk to get home, so we got picked up by her boyfriend. And we were driven back to their house, where he tucked us all in for the night. I was in between the two girls and found out that both of them snored extremely loud. And I wound up going into the living room. I would be turned this way, and one would snore in my ear, and I would turn the other way.
Girl, they can't see your hands.
I know. And the other one would snore straight in my ear. So I went out to the living room, and he was sound asleep on the couch. So I wound up sleeping up all night, upright in a recliner. But he woke up in the morning and was very sweet and got me moved to the couch. But then everyone finally started waking up, and he said, "Hey, do you guys want breakfast?" There was no breakfast food in the house, so he was going to go to the store. So I just kind of perked up real quick, half asleep. I was like, "Do you want company?" And that's when his wife was like, "Okay, wait, babe, come here." Took him to the other room, explained the situation from last night, and then we awkwardly went on this grocery trip. Grocery dates for the first time. And it was actually a really good, sweet time, to be honest.
I love it.
It's when we got mimosas.
So we're both very, we enjoy the stupid. So we came back to the house with champagne and this absolutely terrible, because we have tried it again, orange pineapple soda.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, we'll come into the house with pineapple orange soda just to say, "Hey, babe, look what I got."
Everybody's screaming at their radio, well, their podcast player.
Their radio.
You live in Florida. To not be drinking fresh squeezed Florida orange juice with your mimosas is sacrilege.
I don't like orange juice. I just don't like it.
Oh my. Okay.
I like virgin mimosas.
I have to make him virgin mimosas often.
I love it. I love it. So I'm curious then, like bringing you to present day, what is your relational dynamic?
Well, wait, like what happened after the grocery date?
That's a good point. I skipped some steps.
Oh, and those are the most important steps. Go ahead, babe.
Well, I may have ghosted her like 5 or 6 times.
Oh no.
We were trying to get into a relationship between us, but my ex-wife was very, like, at first she was very for it, but then she started having issues of jealousy and starting having just a lot of, issues of me being with somebody else.
Similar to how Charles was feeling about, well, you are having feelings for this guy. I'm not sure. She started having the same, you have feelings for her. I'm not sure. And I don't think she handled them quite as well as he did.
Yeah, because she was still in a relationship with her boyfriend at the time. And that's one of the reasons I was like, if you're going to have a boyfriend, then I should be allowed to have a girlfriend, not just, play partners. So it started growing from there. And she started talking to me about it. And about 4 or 5 times I ghosted her, baby girl, because I was trying to save my marriage at the time. It was a choose me or her. It was you're never allowed to talk to her again. And then it kept coming back up. Well, I still have feelings for the baby girl. So why
there was even a point in time where it was, well, you can have a girlfriend, but it can't be her. It can't be that one.
You, right.
Yeah, so it started going back and forth about that. Then eventually she ended up with the whole COVID thing coming out. She ended up moving out of the house and with her boyfriend. And then during that time, I basically realized, we're separating. It's not going to work. I continued about my life as normal. And then this lady reached out to me one day asking me if I needed to shop. Asking me how, she showed me some link about polyamory and about, ways of communication. And then I started describing, me and my ex-wife were not together anymore. And that, I had a motorcycle at the time and I needed help going shopping for toilet paper.
So I'm going to back him up for just a second. So right after we had separated, I had a lot of heartache and a lot of heartbreak because he was one of my first true polyamorous, successful with my ex-partner that I had. So when I found out that we really care about each other and we want to be together, but it's a forbidden love and we're not allowed to be, it was heartbreaking. So I struggled after him. 7 months almost to the date, I finally started being more comfortable. I had been talking to someone, and I met my late partner. His name is Jason, and I met him on my very first date. 7 months later, my very first date. I'm finally over this guy. Let's start with a new guy. This one pops up out of nowhere after the second ghosting. Hi, on my phone as I pick it up in the middle of my date, which I just found to be ironic. And then I think a couple of days afterwards, I had replied to him and I shared to him this Facebook group that I had been on that was how I met Jason, because I was like, this is a really successful Facebook group. It has resources. It has meet and greets. It really connects you with people and knowledge that can help them. So I sent him the link and I said, hey, if you guys are still trying, you don't have to, talk to me. You don't have to, communicate or engage with me. But I really think you should give this a try. And that's when he replied to me that, she left with her partner out of state at this point. And kind of left him behind. And this is when he bribed me to come see him
I only had a motorcycle at the time, so getting toilet paper and paper towels is really hard with just a motorcycle.
Just one roll at a time.
Especially in 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what it was.
So I had her meet me up at a Walmart, and we were running around there, and I spent way more money than I needed to.
Walking into Walmart, I had put at least a 5-foot gap between us because I was like, "There's no way I'm going to walk next to this guy. He already hurt me enough. I'm not doing it." We go inside. I'm only here to help. This is what I'm telling myself. We go inside, and he walks down every single aisle in Walmart, every single aisle. At some point, I catch on. I'm like, this idiot, he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that either. And he's just throwing these random things in the cart. And I'm like, we're going to just go with this. We're going to see how this plays out. And at the register, he gets his bill. And I'm like, is he going to do this? And he does. And that's,
No, I just spend money to be with you.
Yeah, sure.
not on you, but just to be with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. And I would love to go back, Charles. I have a question for you, because something that you touched on, I think, is a question or something that comes up often in the podcast, which is you got into non-monogamy through swinging, and then somebody got feelings. And that's a conversation that we often hear comes up, which is, well, we weren't planning on the feelings, but here they are. Now what do we do? And I'm curious how you and your wife at the time sort of adapted to that, because it sounds like you maybe struggle with that a bit.
Yes, very much at the very beginning, I struggled with it when she started having feelings for her boyfriend and everything. But as we kept spending time together and going out and doing things together, it became more of this is an all right guy. He was somebody I didn't mind spending time with. Even when my ex wasn't there, we would still get together and go out and go shoot some pool or have a beer or something along those lines. It took a little bit of time of warming up, but it became to a point to where I was like, this guy's an okay guy. I don't feel as if he's here to try to steal her away from me or anything like that. And we started having, great times together. We all went on a cruise together, which was really funny because at one point in time, people came up was like, are you with both? Or, yeah, sharing is caring. Yeah, it was a whole thing. But it just took a little while to come to the fact that the feelings that she was having for him didn't take away from the feelings that she had for me. And once I kind of learned and got over that hurdle, it became a lot easier. And I think that's the hurdle that when I started having feelings for somebody else, she couldn't get over that hurdle of knowing that I still cared about her and wanted to be with her and this new person. Is I think one of the things that ended up breaking us apart.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like for you, the big fear was some version of this person is here to steal her. And it sounds like for you, just getting to know that person and sort of befriending them was enough to help you be like, oh, this isn't a competition. We're supporting. It's a both and type.
Yes, because we would all get together. We would all work together at each other's houses, or general maintenance, painting up the house, stuff like that. So it was that working together as basically a team that definitely helped me overcome the idea of he's trying to steal her away or, he's going to take her and run off or something along those lines.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that my next question is going to skip a whole bunch, but I was wondering if you two could kind of discuss your dynamic today and where that's at.
Yeah. So our dynamic has definitely built over time. Back when we first started dating, for that brief amount of time, Charles had let off a very dominant energy from me, to which I think I didn't vocalize, but my actions kind of said it all and expressed to him. And we started a little bit with just like play. We started with doing more of, we had a rule at one point that was I can't open my own doors. our rules were I couldn't touch door handles. I couldn't open my own door. He would come around and he would have to open the door for me. It was very like DS dynamic, is how we started. I could see that he's a little shy, but when we started getting back together in 2020, 2021, this is when he was able to really express more feelings, I think, in my opinion. This is when his former wife had left, and I think he was trying to embrace a little bit more and learn all of me, not just part of me, because I had already been a little, at least knew that I was in some capacity a little before that, and he started kind of throwing out his bait to get a little bit more of my little out. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I totally think that you're correct. You're completely avoiding the actual question they're asking.
I don't think I am.
Yeah. They're asking about what our dynamics are now.
But how did we get there?
So our dynamics now are that I have a boyfriend as well. We've been kind of off and on seeing each other for about 2 years now.
Mm-hmm. It might be our lifestyle dating mix. Which one did you guys want? Did you guys want like our polycule or our partners, or like the dynamic between
just yeah, sort of whatever it looks like today.
All of the above, I guess.
Because I guess for us, dynamic means two different things. There's the dynamic in the lifestyle and the dynamic that we could have in. Mm-hmm. I always refer to that as that polycule. Like what does our polycule or polyfamily kind of like look like?
Yeah, I'd love to hear both.
So our polycule basically looks like I have a boyfriend. We've been kind of on and off for about the last 2 years, give or take. And I've had, a couple other partners between then, but nothing that really, grew into anything major. They're like 2-3 month long relationships that just ended up fluttering out. Baby girl here has a girlfriend right now that she's spending time with.
Yep. So, as of just recently, I've been able to kind of get back out there. And in February, I started dating a good friend of mine who we met through a mutual friend from the community as well, who was also already, they're also swingers. So they're on their journey of swinging, maybe moving into polyamory as well. I'm kind of their gateway there too, I guess, in a way. So I just started seeing her, and she has a fiance, practically already husband, just not quite tied the knot yet. And we do have this strange, the three of us sometimes going on, but not quite sure what it is between the three of us, meaning me and my girlfriend and her fiance. But I haven't put a name to it yet.
I love it.
Yeah. And I know you were talking a little bit about the, I think you called it the lifestyle dynamic between the two of you. And just to wrap that piece up a little bit, can you just kind of remind us where you're at right now? Because you kind of went through this evolution, like you said.
Yes, it definitely, the beginning of it started as very DS. I was very much, making the rules and setting the rules. Don't touch door handles. Don't do this, or you have to do that. And then, while it became a high protocol, basically, after time, it kind of slowly evolved into, what we are now. Like, we still have the protocols. We still have things that we do every single day. There's still, the punishments and reward systems that we have in place. It's not as demanding because it's really hard to be high protocol all the time.
I think the best way to describe it is we are 24/7. We do live the lifestyle 24/7, and it has some sprinkles of DS in it, but it's definitely daddy and baby girl, and we're just constantly in this. If he stops and tells me to do something, if he tells it to me in his daddy voice, I'm doing it. There's no questions asked. And we brought in more rules that are now like I can't curse, which are more kind of flavoring to that little aspect of being a proper young lady, things like that along those lines. Very tender, very caring. If I need my hair brushed and I'm just not feeling up to it that day, he'll remind me to do that, or he'll come do it for me. With my recent loss, there have been times where I had in that past year a hard time remembering to get up and shower, and he was there to remind me and tell me to get out of bed in the morning and go take a shower and go brush your teeth and go take care of yourself. So that very caring daddy dom role.
Yeah. I want to circle back to and talk about, you mentioned your late partner, Jason, and I know that is something that, well, for people who aren't part of our email chain, we were actually going to do this interview.
Everyone else.
Right. We were going to do this interview quite a while ago. And then, right, you lost your partner and asked to kind of wait until we could do that. And that is part of what you've expressed that you want to talk about. And so I want to make sure we get there. But are you too open to talking a little bit about the dynamic between you a little bit more for people who aren't as familiar with the DDLG community and what that dynamic looks like, and maybe why it's not necessarily like a codependent, or maybe there are like elements of codependency, but they're part of a bigger dynamic between you two, and sort of what that looks like?
So yeah, I would love to touch more on the DDLG aspect of our dynamic. I think I need to be a little guided with questions as to more into it than anything.
Really, the DDLG community for me is that, like, I am very much taking care of my baby girl. I'm making sure she's getting up in the morning. I'm making sure that she is brushing her teeth. She's taking her shower. She's taking care of herself.
Taking my
she's
vitamins.
Getting her vitamins every single day. And it's a lot of, making sure that she's being taken care of.
He makes me drink water, and I don't like water.
Yeah. And while that is part of, the Dom sub aspect of it, and DDLG is a little bit different of it. It's the DDLG part of it is not always necessarily sexual. Like a lot of the Dom sub part, most of that has sexual aspects to it, but the DDLG is more of a caring role of making sure that everyday life she's taking care of herself. It's a every day, constantly, every minute, making sure she's not doing anything that she might hurt herself with, making sure that she's just mentally ready to take on the days, taking the time to say, are you okay with what's going on? Making sure she's okay with the relationships she's going through.
So speaking on the making sure that I'm okay with where I am. So what I go through is similar to subspace. I go through what's called little space. And the way I found out that I was a little by my previous partner was he pointed out these things that I like to do that are very, very child-esque, very young-hearted, fun-loving, which is as simple, and a lot of us like it. But I just took it to the next level: coloring, Disney movies, stuffed animals, blankets, being cuddled, having all of these extra, very caring and nurturing things is I think what puts me there. And when I get into that little space, I actually recently, after my partner had passed, I had a friend who entered my bubble, and I was very vulnerable in this stage after my partner, that there were certain times when this friend of mine was in my personal bubble and I had gone very little. And similar to, a younger person, they can't always speak for themselves. They can't always, point out their boundaries or tell someone, hey, I don't like when you do that. But they have a big person there who's there to protect them and to point out and to remind them. We actually, not that he always remembers because this was pretty recent, but we had set up a quick code word of baby girl bubble. Which reminds me that if I'm in someone else's bubble, that I'm being aware that I'm not too little without kind of their consent in a way. Or if they're in my bubble and I'm unable to communicate my boundaries, that I can come out of, I can kind of get them out of my bubble, or he will remove them from my bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think sort of you kind of said like to kind of guide with some questions. And I think I appreciate sort of how you two have explained it. And I think the question that it kind of comes up for me is really around, and partly because I don't have a lot of knowledge in this space, is when somebody who has a daddy or somebody who is a little, if they end that partnership and it seems like that person is almost in many ways sort of guiding their day-to-day life, I guess, is there a risk that you end up sort of very dependent on this person to sort of move through the day, and that can create like an actual dependency that can then cause issues when the relationship ends?
Yeah, so I definitely think that that's possible. I actually, so I spoke on it a little bit before. My previous partner had brought out this little, and he was my first daddy, and with him came even my first little name. I used to be called Belle when I was in little space, which would kind of help me get to that little space. And there were a lot of things that I was unable to let him do after separating, like brushing my hair. That's something that's very little to me. So when he at one point had a hairbrush in his hand, and he came to brush my hair, I was like, no, you can't do that. You can't. So I almost became more independent when I lost my previous daddy. Just like, when you move out of the house and you go to college for the first time, you're like, no, I can do it myself. I don't need your help, because you're not looking for that next person to kind of replace them. And in the same way, you're healing from losing, or at least for me, I'm healing from losing that really important person in my life that I needed to take back my independence. So it actually made me a lot stronger, I would say, in saying like, no, I can do it myself. No, I don't need you to. And that's kind of like where he was throwing out his bait, trying to let me feel safe and little again, at which he really did a better job at.
It took time.
It took a lot of time. There were several times when I would start thinking of like, oh my God, I almost called you daddy. And I would put my finger up to let him know, like, you're getting there. But I wouldn't say it. I could not say the word. And I think we got to like 12 one day of he's just doing things that are very daddy like. And it's like, I'm not going to say it. You're not getting that word out of me. Absolutely not. And one day it just happened.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that you like embraced the journey of that too, that you didn't force anything until it felt natural.
Yeah. That's been the story of our life. Honestly, I'm also collared. It still comes with our bit of our DS dynamic, our collaring. I have more collars than I think the average sub does. I have a 5-ring system, and we started very slowly. I have slave anklets on. It started there, and then it moved into like, well, I'm feeling very secure in our relationship. I'm feeling, you're not going to ghost me again. I'll go ahead and get the bracelet cuffs next. And then we eventually worked our way into the one around my neck, which is, of course, the most important one for us.
I love it. Yeah, and I think, as Emma said too, like that it wasn't, hey, I'm here, you're now this. It was, hey, we're both here. Let's see what this becomes for the two of us.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty amazing journey to go on.
Yeah, part of our dynamics have always been the open communication of sitting down, discussing the needs of each other. We actually set up a contract that we have for our poly relationships and for each other.
And yeah.
Like the poly relationships, it covers a lot of basic stuff of don't lie, always be honest, STD check before having sex with other people. If you're going to have sex with anyone else, let the primary people, not necessarily primary, but let the people you know are in a relationship, let them know you're having sex with other people. So that way everyone can stay as safe as they possibly can. And then we have our own contract between each other. Like she's very asexual. So in my contract, I make sure that, I put it in there. I'm like, I want to have sex at least, once a week. So that way I can always go back to it and be like, hey, you signed up for this. You gave this up to me, and this is where it is in writing with your signature.
But I also want to say, for anyone listening who hasn't experienced the BDSM lifestyle, and yes, I know I'm wearing collars and cuffs, but a big part of it is the negotiation. We talked about our contract. I put input in our contract. There were several times I erased things off of the contract. I was like, nope, I don't agree to that. Absolutely not. And we got to it to where it worked for us for sure.
Something that we grew into, and we definitely both agree on.
It's always changing. Sometimes we haven't changed it in a while, but there have been times where we've had to go back and be like, maybe we just have to reword the way that says so that we're not setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing that what you just said there too, around that it wasn't Charles delivered this contract and you signed it against your will. That was a negotiation that you two landed on that works for both of you. And I think, as you were saying, like for people who aren't necessarily part of that community, that may not necessarily be a given. And so I really appreciate you touching on that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it a good space or a good time maybe in the story to sort of talk about Jason and your experience? I know that is, again, as you've kind of talked about, something that is important to you to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about a little bit earlier, it might bring a couple of tears to my eyes. But as one of my girlfriends have told me is, the body lets tears go to help the healing process. So I'm absolutely up for talking about it. It's actually a big reason why I had reached out to you. We had this kind of planned about a year ago, if not a little longer, prior to the loss of my partner. And I needed my journey for healing. But during that process, there's no resources. There's no resources for how does it feel when you're polyamorous and you have multiple partners, but one of them passes away? How does it feel? And that was something that I struggled with. And there's a lot of guilt that goes with it. There's a lot of emotions that I felt. So to kind of dive into my relationship with Jason a little bit, we met back in 2019, late October, and we were together until mid 2021, which is going to sound a little strange. But what had happened was we had a solid dynamic, a solid relationship. I met him through a Facebook page that he was in a group. He entered the group from his ex-wife, who had tried to get them into polyamory, but unfortunately, behind the scenes, she was not being ethical. She was cheating. So they wound up separating. And I don't know if he forgot to leave the Facebook group or if he just kind of stuck around to see. But I made this one post one night that I was bored. He commented on it. We just kind of clicked and talked for a couple of months before I was ready to actually get out there and meet people. And we were together for quite some time. But what he soon learned when Charles and I reconnected again was that while he really wanted to be polyamorous, he was not polyamorous and he was monogamous. And he loved me so much that he was willing to go through hell and back for me. And he did several times. He was a very monogamous person and he didn't want to be for me because he wanted me in his life. And he knew that this was something that was a part of me that can't be erased. This wasn't something that can go away. So I had separated from him, honestly, about September of 2021, but he was still there every day. He was there every day after we separated. We were working on a friendship. We were working on being together. At that point, I have small children, and he kind of became a daddy figure for them. They actually chose to call him Daddy J, and it was absolutely sweet. And so we were together, and we were working on everything. And just before he passed, we came together again in a romantic relationship. So we were back together again. Romantically after we went out on a family vacation in December of 2021, and we were all together. It was Charles, myself, Jason, and our kids, my mom, my dad, and we had kind of rekindled everything. He was my New Year's kiss, and Daddy knew that he was going to be my New Year's kiss before I even told him. He said, "You're going to kiss Jason for New Year's, aren't you?" And I said, "It's supposed to mark, good luck for the year, I'm absolutely gonna kiss him. And he said, and you want to kiss him first, don't you? And I said, well, yes, I do. And he was absolutely okay with it, with some parameters. Um, uh, and that's, that's when we got back together again on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And then in 25 days later, January 25th of 2022, we were doing great. The day before, we had a date night at my house. We had watched Encanto for the first time. We shared this hysterical laughter at some moments, and things were really great. And the next day, he was supposed to come out to my event, the one that I host in our community, and he sent me this long message that said, "Oh my God, babe, I forgot. I swear I'm not flaking." And it was, I mean, it was a novel. It was like three novels in one text, because he often forgot, or he was often late places. And we just said, like, it's okay. I absolutely love you. I'm going to see you tomorrow. No problem. And he told me that I'd be super proud of him, that day, and he can't wait to talk to me later. And after the event, I get a text message from a mutual friend, and she says, "Hey, have you heard from Jason?" And this is the part where the struggle starts to really happen. I hadn't heard from him. We have an app, which, if I can do a bit of a shout out for that, it's called the Life 360 app. So it helps with GPS location on partners and people, and you can start little groups on it. And we had that app, and so I signed into it when he wasn't picking up my calls or my texts, and it showed him at a hospital. And so we drove up to the hospital together. They brought me into a room off to the side, and they asked me for a picture of my boyfriend. And then they gave me the bad news. And he, of course, immediately tried to come in for a hug, and I pushed him away. I didn't want him to touch me. I didn't want anything. I didn't want anyone to touch me. And the guilt that came from that, from being in this little room in a hospital with my boyfriend while they're telling me my boyfriend is no longer here, I felt judgment. I felt guilt. I felt sadness. I felt just crumbled down into this terrible human being, almost in a way of, oh my God, what are you going to do now? Like, what is happening? This can't be real. I might need help with questions because I'm going off.
No, we're just listening. I can't imagine.
Yeah. No, that moment, like the moment, right, that is a worst nightmare moment, right? That you get news and you don't know what to do in that moment other than to react with how your body is reacting.
I guess the hard part for me about all this was, here I am trying to be there for my baby girl, and she's kind of pushing me away because she doesn't want me to be there to help her go through this trauma. And it's one of those things where I have to start dealing with, okay, I'm being rejected a little bit because of this massive situation. She just lost her partner. She lost a man that she loves. And it becomes very difficult over the next actual few months of slowly working into talking and, her sitting on her phone for hours watching videos.
If I can, I even want to go back a little bit. So we're out to everyone that we know. So we're Jason and I. So my parents know, Jason's parents knew, your mom knew, everyone in our life knew. And Jason's mom, from the get-go of him calling her and saying, "Hey, Mom, I've met someone, but here's the thing. She's polyamorous." To this day, she has said, "Do you know how many times I told that boy, I'm sorry, what? You're not polyamorous. You're the most jealous person I know." When we separated, she was there, and she was always there for Jason to talk to. And she never She never met Charles. So that day in that hospital, I pull myself together for a quick moment and I go, oh my God, I have to call his mom. And so I get my phone and I call, and Jason's stepdad picks up, and I'm saying, you need to come here. No, you call.
I call.
I'm shouting in the background. You call. It's still a blur sometimes. He calls. He grabs my phone. He finds the number. He calls. He's on speakerphone, and he's saying, you need to get here right now. And his stepfather is saying, I don't remember what he's saying, but I am shouting in the background, and Charles is trying to get me to not. And I just can't help but keep repeating, he's gone. He's gone. And like that's another big part, is when Jason's mother came into the room and they had never met Charles before, and now I'm pushing Charles away even further. I'm like, his mom can't see me with you. I can't do this. Like, no, and that was a big part at that moment in the hospital for me too, if you didn't already know.
But I made sure that I got you home and also got her home as well.
Yeah.
After the fact, because she had driven up there, so I made sure to follow her home to make sure, because she lived down the road maybe 5 or 6 miles, but I made sure to follow her to make sure that she was in not the right state of mind, but she made it back home without, having an attack or, crying or something along the way. So that way I'd be there to help her. And later on, she appreciated me doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an impossible situation for everybody. And I know, Charles, like you kind of chimed in earlier and said like, what was hard for me. And I just want to say, like, from my side, that wasn't like, Charles was the person who really struggled here, right? But I think it's something that people don't think about. And Emma and I have gone through a very different version of this, but watching the other person, take a break or have conflict with a partner or feel that sense of loss, and you have this moment of, well, I'm not everything. She's upset or they're upset, and it's maybe not because of me, and not only not because of me, but there's almost nothing I can do other than just be here, because it's not about me. Even like the pushing me away or pushing you away, it's not about you at all. It's completely about that person and what they're going through. But there's nobody that ever explains that frame of reference. Like, and there's very few people who ever talk openly about going through a situation like this. And so I have a ton of gratitude, I think, for both of you.
Yeah, it's an impossible, horrific situation. And yet it's something that happens in life.
Yeah. So I know that's, he definitely went quiet on me. I wasn't talking a whole lot either. There were, I don't know how many days. For the next couple of days, I just laid in his house, in his bed. I didn't want to go home, and he was really great about that. And I would just sit on my phone all day, all night, and I would watch videos of me and Jason and rewatch messages and text messages, and I was consumed by it.
It was one of those things that I wanted to make sure, she had her time to grieve, but it was also the time of, I need to slowly start pushing you to get out and to get back into the world a little bit, and to eat was one of my big things. Is that she had gone almost 3 days with no food
Or water.
or water or anything. So it was at that point in time I was like, look, I know you don't want to, but I have to start forcing you to eat. And so I would take her and she would eat 2 fries or something like that. And I mean, as long as I was getting something in her stomach, that was a win for me. It was the little small things of just trying to help her readapt and to accept the new world without Jason being in it. And it was a very long and slow process, but even a process we're still going through today.
Of course.
I would have to say.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I just, again, both of you, thank you. And I know you kind of said like guiding with some questions, but I think just wanting to give you the space to talk about this and Charles, that whatever parts of this you want to share, right? Because this is what we talked about a little before starting to record, was that you said like you wanted to be the start of resources for people, because you weren't able to find any. And
Yeah.
Again, at what level and what pieces make sense for you to share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please do. And don't feel like you have to share anything that you don't want to. This is your space.
I'm pretty open to talk about everything because, like we were saying, there's honestly, there's nothing. I would search many hours to try to find anything that could give me a peace of mind of what I'm going through. And the only thing that I ever got close was widow podcasts. And in widow podcasts, it talks about how, you lose your one partner. They don't touch on the aspect of the polyamory that we have about having someone else there for you. They talk about the loneliness and the depression, and you still have those. I still had all of that, even though I have this person by my side who's there and caring for me, making sure I eat, because I went some time not eating. Nothing describes the pain you have, and then when you have this person who wants to hug you, but it's not the person in that moment you want to hug you. The pain that comes from that, the pain that comes from waking up in the morning next to your partner who you love. I loved them very equally. Something about us is I don't believe in hierarchy, so they were both my primary partners. They were both my people, and I loved them extremely equally. And being hurt by waking up every day, the guilt that I felt from hurting him with my own feelings was there. The guilt that I felt somehow hurting Jason in the beyond because I'm waking up in his bed, it was there. There was guilt around every corner. There was guilt of, Jason's family members who didn't understand polyamory. And here I am attending the funeral with my partner, and it was just, there were times where I just wanted to run and hide. I didn't want to be anywhere. And that's what I tried to find the resources for. I wanted to find out, there's got to be something. I can't be the first polyamorous person to have lost a loved one to death. I just can't be. We talk about heartbreak, we talk about breakups and how severe those are. And this is just this extra step from what I've never heard before. And that's a big reason why I reached back out, because I think it was pretty close to his anniversary of his death. And I was just sitting there going like, you know what? I still can't find anything, and I want to talk about it. I need people to know they're not alone. I need, these people who are feeling guilty to know that the guilt is misplaced.
Yeah. And I think, and again, I don't want to in any way equate when I was saying earlier, Em and I witnessing each other going through a break or a breakup to be the same, because it is in nowhere even close. And I think to your point that, you don't even think about all the different levels of guilt. The guilt, you say, right, that you felt with Jason, that you were maybe still with Charles, or you're showing up to a funeral with a partner. And there's just so many things that are against the grain that there's no manual. I mean, frankly, there's not a whole lot of manuals out there for how to handle losing somebody in your life anyway. And then you add this twist, and it's just impossible.
Yeah. And that's, I honestly didn't start feeling, really the release of this guilt, until recently. Jason's mother had maybe 3 months ago, given me a phone call, and she said that, I just had this dream. I was told that, I have to call you. I have to talk to you today. And she called me, and we sat on the corner of this couch on the phone with her for 4 hours. And for the first 2 hours of the conversation, it was the pleasantries. It was the, how's it going? What's new? Things like that. And at some point in the middle of it, she asked, so my sweet girl, what is going on? And at some point, she said, in the way that I then answered her, she realized that I wasn't at this point sad at his passing or guilty about his passing. I was sad, guilty, angry, and just beating myself up. And it didn't come until, because there was a lot of regret in our situation, where I had separated from him in September, and after he passed away, I was beating myself up. It was, oh my freaking God, you could have kissed him more. You could have hugged him more, slept with him more. You could have, he was also my daddy. And you could have called him that. There was this one time when he was in Charles's home, helping us paint the wall, and I had looked up to him and I was about to ask him something, and I stopped myself because I almost called him daddy, because I was feeling so good in him coming over and being in our family, that I looked over at him and I gave him the same symbol that meant I was about to call him daddy. I was like, and kind of saying, like, it's coming back. Like, this is a great feeling, but I never said it. I never got to call him daddy again. I never got to do these things with him. And this was the guilt that had been crushing me. I felt judgment from his side of the family, who didn't understand what polyamory was. I felt that, they thought, what's with this, floozy who's now on the arm of another man. And it just really beats you down and puts you down. And when you start thinking that these things could be true, is when it just captivated my whole world. I think I'm still coming back from it a little bit, but his mother had said on the phone, he said, she had said to me, look, the blame is not on you. And she reminded me, she said, from the very first day, Jason called me and said, hey, Mom, I've got a girlfriend and she's polyamorous and so am I. That she said, if he had been honest with you from the get-go, that he is not polyamorous, he is not monogamous, you guys would have had a wonderful friendship and it would have gone from there. And I think just having his mom, in a way, tell me that it's okay, it really let a lot of the guilt and the pain from the separation from monogamy versus polyamory from me.
Yeah.
If I'm making sense.
No, thank you so much for sharing. You are making sense. And I think, I can't remember if this was actually said in the podcast, but Jason passed away from a car accident, yes. Correct?
Yeah, so he actually, he had lost his car the month prior to a woman running a stop sign. And then a month later, he was on a moped and a gentleman ran a stop sign and hit him on the moped.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
To say the least, I have not ran a stop sign in a long time. Yeah. Looking at stop signs every now and again makes me sad.
Yeah, well, it's a reminder that they're there for a reason. A very, very important reason. But I just wanted to validate what you were saying of the feeling that, you mentioned that you don't have guilt over his passing. It's the way you showed up, from my understanding, the way you showed up in his life was, hey, this is me, I'm polyamorous. And he attempted to meet you there because he wanted to, but was ultimately not, like, that's not where he was at in his, like, relationship journey. He wanted to, like, he was more monogamous. And so the guilt comes from you. It's like, well, should I have made myself more monogamous for him? Like, I imagine those are some of the questions that have been running through your head.
That's absolutely correct. There have even been times now where, when it came down to almost starting my journey into dating again, because, my daddy has a partner and sometimes he's out, and every now and then the last thing I need to be is alone in my house when no one else is here staring at my pictures, because he's still everywhere in my home. It was, I I feel like I have to get back out there. But then I had these moments of, oh my freaking God, are you kidding yourself? You just lost a partner. Why would you get back out there? But then my brain would flip in an instant and it would be like, well, you have to get back out there because you couldn't be monogamous for Jason. So how dare you be monogamous for someone else? And it was, I had this huge moment where every once in a while I would look at him and I would be like, would you still love me if I found out I'm now monogamous? And he said to me, exactly, as long as you don't mind I'm polyamorous, I'll be fine. But then I would just keep flip-flopping back and forth, shaming myself for any decision I chose going forward.
Yeah, which is just like it's such an awful part of that process, right? Like because you're going through it's the grief and the guilt and the shame and cycling on that, and which like, you've I'm sure I'm putting words in your mouth, but from what you're saying, like you feel like there is not an option. Like, how do I move forward? How do I move forward and work through all of this? Because it sounds like it made you question everything.
It made me question absolutely everything. It made me wonder if, is polyamory really a good thing for me? Is this really who I am? Is like there were some strange questions that didn't even correspond to what was happening, but my brain was just so jumbled from everything that was in it and going on. And anytime I even made a match with another human being, I'm telling you, I can be mad at this man next to me as long as I want for the 5 times he ghosted me prior to Jason. But I can't tell you how many matches I have made on OkCupid, Facebook dating, and I've maybe spoken one line to them and it didn't speak again. I'm so many people. Being a woman on dating sites, you match with a lot of people, and I have definitely ghosted a huge share of the dating pool that I was in. To this point, I actually now on dating sites, my profile says I come with a warning label, and that's really all it says. And it says, if you match with me, let me know that you read this, and I'll send you my warning label. And I'm almost pushing them away now. I'm almost like, look, if you can't handle that, ultimately I am a widow, and I'm struggling with this, then you can't talk to me. And even the people that have gone, have read through this whole thing, and my thing is like, I'm an asexual, I'm a DDLG, I'm a widow, I've lost my partner. And even the people that have gotten through that, and it's a huge list of here's all the reasons why you shouldn't be with me is basically what I'm sending them. And it's crazy. But even the few people that get through and they're like, nope, I make my own mistakes, let's see where this goes. Even some of them I message a few times here and there and nothing, or we become friends on Facebook and nothing more than that. And that's been where my dating life has kind of led me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I want to say that, you being completely upfront and honest about, hey, this is what you're getting. Like, to me, there's no other way to do it. Like, that's, you want to be on, or you're open to exploring being back on dating apps right now. You're putting yourself out there like, this is me. And it sounds like you're going at your own pace, that it kind of is what it is. And it doesn't have to, I think, unfortunately, so many of us, or just in general, society tells us that society tells us to be monogamous, but if you're going to be not be monogamous, then you must be out there dating. Like, non-monogamy equals dating, and that's just so not true.
So one of the biggest things we recently saw from it's a TikTok from the poly couple, and it's one of my absolute favorite ones they have out right now. Is people do have that thought that you must be out there dating, you must be having. It's like we're not trying to fill some quota that we that we have this unknown number of profit we need in our romantic relationships. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can be poly without having multiple partners.
Yeah. Which,
or any partners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely not true.
Yeah. Well, I just thank you both for sharing everything you have today. I think the conversation it's almost been two conversations in one, and I think that they both dovetail into one another really beautifully. And I know this was a really hard conversation to have, Anne and Charles, and so I just really appreciate it, and I hope that it is a resource for people out there, for anybody out there who's looking at something like this or facing a loss like this to know. Yeah.
If anyone can be brave enough or ready enough, I will absolutely be listening some more and hope to be not the only one. And I just want people to know that they're not the only one too.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing and to come out and share that and be that first person. Thank you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're definitely not the only person that has experienced this. It's just a matter of no one out there is talking about it. So thank you for talking about it.
Yeah, and I know we could probably sit and talk to you too for another hour and a half, but we want to be respectful of your time and know that we can always have you back on, and I hope we do. And so, I mean, maybe giving you the opportunity here, is there anything that we didn't touch on, again, knowing that we did not complete your whole story, but that you wanted to share out into the world before we let you go tonight?
So no, I think we're probably good. I don't think we came in with like a list of these are the topics we must talk about. More so really just to get a little bit of our story out, and then I really wanted that resource or the talking about the loss in polyamory.
Yeah, and it's again, I think it's a process that yours is one sort of flavor of it, but it can be mapped onto lots of different aspects, and there's so many layers to it, right? It's the family, it's partners, it's metamors, it's future dating, it's yourself. There's just endless levels to it that make it complicated, and I feel for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Charles, any other thoughts from your side before we let you two?
Because I talked the whole time.
No.
I told you you're going to talk the whole time.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I hope people out there know that while times do get tough, just to always be there for your partner, whether they're pushing you away or not, to give them the time and space that they need to grieve and to move through the things, and to know that, it's not always, you're not always going to be the one being pushed away, and to know that, it just takes that time for the people to heal and to be accepting again of having that partner with them again. It just is a part of the journey of moving through those losses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and two, I think, and this is something that I know probably Emma and I have both learned, I can say for myself, I've learned, is that it's often one of the hardest things to do can be to support somebody when you're in some ways getting nothing in return, right? That it's basically you're providing the support because that person can't provide anything in return, and it's not a quid pro quo. It's just that's what we do sometimes for our partners and the people we love.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
and it just takes the amount of time. I mean, some situations are like that only takes a couple days.
Right.
Situations like this can take months before you finally start getting anything in return in the relationship.
Yeah.
Patience is something that, so important in life, right? That's just like such a, like it just so important. I could go on about that, and I'm not going to right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you again both for coming on and sharing, and let's make sure this isn't the last time we talk.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you again for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And we're back. Thank you, Anne and Charles, both of you, for everything you shared. This was an incredibly powerful, vulnerable conversation, and we're grateful that you trusted us to get it out there.
Yeah. I can't say it any better than that. Thank you both. And we are eternally grateful for this, to be a part of this resource and getting it out there. Thank you.
Yeah. A quick reminder, you can sign up for our community on the community tab of our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. And we don't have any other announcements right now.
We don't, but we have an announcement about next week's interview.
Yes. It's with Sarah.
It's with Sarah, coming to us from Europe.
Yes, yes. So that's an amazing conversation. Come back and listen next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Happy June. It's June now.
It's June?
Yes.
That's what happens when we record these ahead of time. I don't know what month it is.
It will be June by the time, like over the weekend.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So June is coming.
June's coming?
Yes.
Got it. I'm looking forward to that.
June is coming. Summertime. Yay. Anyway, that's all we got.
It's got to be awkward for anybody in the car listening whose name is June. And Emma's just like, June is coming. June is coming. And she's like, hey, man, I'm driving. Anyway, that's a little treat for anybody who hung out to the very end.
That was a random thought. Anyway.
I try to keep them all internal, but sometimes they leak right out and then they're just out there forever.
Oh boy.
So if your name is June, send us an email or a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you.
Heard this.
And we'll talk to you then.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
We're back again.
We are, because we just looked up the calendar for when this is coming out.
June is coming tomorrow.
Yes, June is coming tomorrow. we were close. I thought it was a couple days out, but
I apparently didn't even know it was coming at all.
We decided to come back and share that made us laugh. Okay, that's all for now.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.